Welcome everybody to the Mind, Body, and Soul television show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. I'm your host, Coach Steve Todd, and also the one that began this journey of building this network called the Conscious Evolution Media Network. And I am just happy to announce that we have a fantastic guest with us this evening. Her name is Temple Hayes. She's an author and an ordained minister, and many other things we're going to find out about her during this conscious hour, which is going to be short as usual. And she's joining us from Florida. Welcome to the show, Temple.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on the network. And Temple, if I took away these titles, like an author, an ordained ministers, and anything else that anybody has ever called you in your life, if I take them all away, no titles, what's left? Who is really Temple Hayes?
An open heart. And probably deeper than that would be an open-hearted student of life. Life is teaching me every day, learning, discovering new things about myself and what is possible in my own humanity.
Awesome. And I just want to say that you are extremely, extremely attractive, and I don't mean this just because of the way you look. You have this energy that's shining through from the inside out.
Oh, thank you.
I know you know what I'm talking about, right?
And you also know how much work it takes to keep that light bulb going on inside, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I just absolutely love our theme. I believe that this is as timely as it can be on this planet. The 8 steps to stop dying every day and start waking up, and this is also the title of your book. Actually, is When Did You Die? And this is the subtitle. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So before we dive into this, because I just love to, if you're willing, I would just love to dive into these 8 steps, because I feel that a lot of people have committed themselves dying before they actually 6 foot under.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's anything we can do to touch, move, and inspire them to wake up, because that's really what the network has been all about for the last 10+ years, is to wake people up and to realize that all the answers that they've always been looking for is within themselves. They don't really need us for the answers. I think they need us just to remind them that they have them. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, sometimes we would call it the science of remembering, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're actually just recycling ancient information through our own assessment, through our own soul voice.
Right
and
on.
We're all hearing it and processing it different ways. So you bet. I think we're just waking up to remember what is really lying dormant within all of us.
Yeah, and who we really are. And tell us a little story just before we dive into this. Just a little story about Temple, and how did you get to this shining so incredibly well in the world? What did that took? What happened in your life?
Well, I really had to learn how to rewrite my story, how to rewrite my sacred story, because I was born into a very small town. And keep in mind, that was in the late 50s, early 60s. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't go to meetup.com or, go Google Chrome Plus and meet people like you. You were only exposed to the people that knew you, and I was around people that, they were very kind, loving people, but they were very closed-minded. Mm-hmm. They did everything because people told them that's the way we do it and that's the way it is. And there wasn't that level of openness, and I realized early on that people didn't appreciate questions and pondering and exploration. It made them very uncomfortable. And I was really treated, very harshly at times for probing, for wanting to know.
Yeah. I was beaten up for it every day.
Yeah, I was too. I was dying, you know, energetically, I was dying, and maybe, you know, a lot. And I was convinced I was adopted up until I was about 43 years old. I finally surrendered to, I guess I wasn't. Um, but anyway, rather than remain a victim of my story, I learned that my story actually shaped me. It actually helped define me so that I would be able to identify with so many people that walk the human path and that feel different. You know, different is cool. I love being different. You know, now if somebody says you're so different, I go, thank you for noticing. You know, where there was a time it was very hard to hear.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm actually right now working on. Actually, I have been for the last 6 months working and taking this notion of consciousness and being awake and being connected to our spirit into corporate America. And you know, I'm finding some amazing things, and I'm doing a study right now, like a marketing study on our people that are 62 and older. And it is fascinating to me how closed most of these people are. Like they really have it that they everything that they have achieved in their life and everything that they have is all there is, and there's nothing more to do in life. Just they're happy that their homes are paid off, and I'm saying, well, if you have your house paid off, congratulations. You can't take it with you, so why don't you figure out a way to just live it up? You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, when I am 80 years old, I'm going to be looking at my list. I'm looking at my list today of all the things I still want to accomplish. And one of them is not that I have a house paid for, because I want to use whatever assets I have to have the best life I can have until I die.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They say that, you know, often when we're born as children, we start out as one big question mark, but by the time we finish life, we're just one big period. You know, we just, you know.
Like we didn't come here with anything, like, right? I mean,
right.
I remember when I was born. I don't remember the exact time. Well, I remember the time and the date because my parents told me, but I don't remember when I was born. But I know that I came here with nothing, and I'm going to leave with nothing. So it's between that time, between that breath of time, and if you look out into the universe, that's really just a breath of time. When we're talking about how big our universe is.
That's right. That's right. Somewhere within the two nothings, we hope to find something, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's just like, you know, like Tuesday we were talking about consciousness and what is it really, and it was so clear to me that it's between our past, between our future, and it's in the now. But what is the now? Because I just said what is the now, and that's already in the past, and I'm already into the next, and the next, and the next. and I think when you're talking about living life versus having, you know, having life show us how it's supposed to be, and our relatives and our parents and our friends tell us how life should be. I mean, I'm sure that we have all gone through that, and you have too. And we have learned all kinds of habits, and we bought ideas and mindsets, and we made them our own. Like I've been working on now for the last couple of years to let them all go, because I'm realizing that most of them are not even mine. Somebody told me something, and I bought it for hook, line, and sinker. Didn't even check it out. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know what you mean, and and you have been in the place of being awake for many, many years, and then we compare it to someone that is kind of walking dead, energetically, and it's never occurring to them as how they're influenced and how they're affected by their parents, the energies of their upbringing, their school teachers. I love to tell people that my 6th grade school teacher told my parents I was never going to amount to anything because I talked too much.
Okay. I'm guilty of that myself.
It's how I made my whole life, though. My whole life has been about speaking.
Yeah.
And so obviously she was incorrect. But what if I had bought, what she said? I would have never had the life that I've loved and that I've enjoyed. And so many people are influenced by other people. I like to say, as long as someone else is authority over our lives, we will never be an authority over our lives.
Right. It might as well be us. Who's best qualified to be an authority over us? It's ourselves.
That's right.
So
exactly.
That's fantastic. So let's. Would you be willing to maybe share just one challenge that you've had in the last few decades that shook your core?
In the last few decades.
And I didn't mean it that way.
That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
How many decades?
All these are wanting to channel through me at the same time. Oh God. In the teenage years and going into my early adulthood, because I had been so rejected, I thought the easiest route, Steve, was to reject myself. So the first time I took a drink of alcohol, I became violently ill. That, for a lot of people, would have been a good clue that it was probably not mine to do. But I rejected that insight, and I kept doing it year after year after year. It never got better, really, and I was really good at it, but it was messy. I drank for like 15 years until I became sober when I was 29 years old. The same thing with smoking. The first time I smoked, I went into full-blown like tonsillitis. Do you think that was, it wasn't mine to do? I became so sick for like a week, but I kept right on doing it. So that part of that rejection and time again of projecting that onto other people in various settings, either at the workplace or in relationship, of just creating, this experience of someone rejecting me, until finally of having that aha moment that I no longer reject me, and I no longer need this experience to keep practicing what this feels. And so that was a big challenge for me in the early phases of my life.
Yeah. I don't know who to give credit to, but someone said once that I keep remembering is that whatever, and it was on my tongue, I promise, and here it goes. What was it? It will come back to me, I promise. Let's continue on. The show must go on. So let's dive into the 8 steps, if you will.
Yes.
We can begin anywhere you like. I don't know if there's a sequential order of these 8 steps. We can just take them any way you like.
Okay. One of the steps is to put your whole self in. And I love it in the speaking world when I'm speaking, because I actually start out by singing the Hokey Pokey, and that's really what it's all about, is to put your whole self in. And what I talk about
you mean make 100% commitment?
I mean make 100% commitment, but I give... one of the ways is learning how to practice connecting the dots in our lives. Being that awake and that attentive, that we begin to see how if we're thinking about someone and they call, that we're able to make that connection. There are signs and clues that are, when we're conscious, which is what you teach all the time, that you really delve into and you notice, even the times that silence is necessary. I also am talking about from the level of a relationship with other people, with your experiences. A lot of people, for example, are looking for love, let's say, and they're on Match.com and they're, find your perfect mate, your true love. Many of them aren't even being honest. They don't put the right age they are. They don't put really who they are, and yet they're expecting somebody honest and somebody true. And it doesn't work that way. I've heard many people say, I'm going to see what he does, and over time, if he starts, really sharing himself, then I'm going to share myself. And what we have relationships where people aren't really present because we're always working with cause. So I'm on one level talking about we always get in life what we bring, and you put your whole self into the experience.
Okay, here we go. Hang on, it just came to me. So whatever you put up with, that's what you get more of.
That's right. Yes.
That's the one that I didn't remember just 5 minutes ago, but it came back.
Whatever you put up with, that's what you get more of. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes.
So it's interesting. So the first one is really then about making that like really commit to be in your life. And does that include then being 100% responsible and accountable to how you conduct your orchestra, your life, realizing that you are the creator? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that you are a full participant in your life. And though there may have been actions or experiences in your life that you don't want to say, well, I intentionally or consciously caused that, maybe that would be true, but you're participating in it. The acts where we don't forgive things, we're the ones that keep rescinding them with resentment. They get resent over and over and over again.
And they are on the ski slopes having fun.
Yes. Yeah.
and we're suffering.
Yes, and we're suffering. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And how many millions of people take these resentments to their grave?
Oh yeah, I'm amazed at how many people I've interviewed on radio, or counseled, or been a life coach for, and here they are. They're 50, 60, 70 years old, and they're hanging on to this one action that their parent did when they were 7. It's like, can you believe it? You have repeated this patterning in your life from 7 to freaking 72. Get over it. I mean, come on already. Give the people a little peace. I mean, they're physically dead. Let it die. Let's go. What's the how many lives are you going to have this time? 100 years, all new people. Let's get moving, folks. So, yeah,
Awesome.
it is fascinating. And how those influencers, prevent us from putting our whole selves in. A simple example is a woman I was coaching one time. She loved her girls. They were teenagers. And she wanted to teach them how to cook and make fancy things. And she said, I don't know what it is, but I get in the kitchen, and she said, and all of a sudden I become so cranky, and I start yelling at them and fussing, and I go, well, how did your mom treat you in the kitchen? And she just turned white. And she went, oh my God, that's how my mother treated me. And I said, well, you're not being you then. Other. And it fascinates me that people don't even think about that stuff, that it doesn't enter their mind naturally to be awake to that, because it's just such an unconscious driver, that people have.
Yeah.
So it is human nature is quite fascinating, isn't it?
Very well. I just want to bring another example to this dialogue from an experience I had today. I need to speak to some of these elderly folks in order to complete my marketing study, so I have to make some calls. And today I called someone, and they answered the phone, and they basically started to yell at me, very angry, and who are you, and what do you want? And I basically said, have a nice day.
Mm-hmm.
and not realizing that that way of being doesn't really have an effect on me. I feel sad, and I feel sorry for the person because they are suffering.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
don't know, and they don't know it.
You
I
could
mean,
have been
I can't say that
calling
they don't know it.
them.
They probably know it, but they won't admit it openly. That they are
Well,
suffering.
yeah, but you could have been from the publishing clearinghouse and calling to give them millions of dollars, and they would have shut you down.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally, completely resigned and cynical and completely closed down.
Yeah, totally shut down. And there are a lot of people that aren't elderly, but they're 20 years old that are doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. This is not necessarily connected to a certain age. It's
Yeah.
just connected to human being.
Yeah,
By the way,
energy.
since you've been involved in the same thing I've been involved in for so long, I'm probably going on 40 years. I want to ask you if you know, who do we credit for the word human?
I don't know. Who
Guess
do we
what?
credit with the word
Nobody
human?
knows. Nobody knows.
Really?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Since you really like questions and
I do.
and
I love
you
them.
inquiring into things, and you as rebellious as I am, when somebody tells me no, you can't do that, I just say, watch me.
That's right. Watch me, here I go.
Hmm. So give us a second one. What's a second step to stop dying
Well, another
today?
another step is your personalized GPS. And GPS stands for your God personalized system. And I liken it to like that of a navigation system in your automobile. I don't know about you, but I've been in automobiles where they actually enter in an address where they want to arrive.
Hmm.
They start second guessing the satellite system. Oh, there's something about that doesn't feel right. And I go, well, you've never been here before. And they go, yeah, but it doesn't feel right. And I said, well, if you don't do what it says and you don't get where you want to go, you can't blame it, you know. And, and a lot of people live life that way, you know. They'll say their life isn't working. And when they say that, or life doesn't work, I know what they're really saying is they haven't learned how to work with life. And we all have a navigation system. We all have desires and places we would like to arrive, be it whatever level we call success. Maybe it can be to help with nonprofit organizations or to find the true love in our lives. Whatever it is, we are required to listen to the guidance that we get. Either creator or God or whatever they want to call it, and and say, oh, God never answers anything. Well, you're not listening. You know, the poor principal gets blamed for everything when we are the ones that are really to be accountable in that conscious evolution that we're part of learning to pay attention. So that's
So let me just add something to this, Temple.
yes,
So I use my intuition, it's my guidance, and
yes,
then I add to it because I live my life now that the way I live it is it's very simple. I ask my highest self, is what I am about to do or say, is that in my highest and best interest of myself and everybody else concerned?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, then I don't do it.
Absolutely.
It's really easy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is really easy. And one of the things I also say is just like you. I mean, the early years of my life being a rebel, as you already picked that up,
Uh,
is, it used to be,
it takes one to know one, you know.
oh yeah. And my way or the highway, it was like I would force things into being. I learned
Uh,
how to be successful. I learned how to be a great athlete because I learned how to make things happen. But
yeah,
as,
yeah, Temple. I played that game in corporate America.
oh
The
yeah,
one you're talking about. It's a perfect place to play this game.
and you have to play it if you're going to be anything in corporate America. You have to play it because that's the way everybody's playing it, you know.
Yeah.
But the deeper
I,
part,
I used to go to meetings and I used to be 10, 15 minutes late. Um, and when I arrived, just imagine, 20 people, and they all look at me and I go, the meeting doesn't start until I get here. Now, now there's no way, Temple, I could say something like that today. But back then, it was like so natural to me, and I managed by intimidation. I ripped people into pieces
hmm
because then I got my way, you know. I got everything I wanted, you know.
yes, hmm
And and I thought I was having fun at the time. I was, but I didn't know any better.
it's so
So,
wonderful when we wake up from that, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, there's no way I could ever do something like that today. And so I feel, I sometimes also feel bad because there's times I got so much going on and I get so busy during the day that, I sometimes miss things, I miss appointments, and I feel really bad because it reminds me of that part of me that that I that I know I left in my past, but when it comes up, it's like it's going like, how the heck do I live my life now? Because there's all this stuff going on, people coming at me for 1,000 different directions, and because I decided to take this out to the public, I've been doing this network and created this bubble for me. I had a life for the last 10 years that I created nirvana for me
Yeah.
because I basically decided, or I have chosen, that world out there is not for me.
hmm
I removed myself from that world, and on purpose, because I was working on myself, and I was working on this network, and I said, I'm putting, like, now what you said, the very first thing you said, I put all my commitment and energy into that because before that I was committed to a couple of addictions. And I said, if I'm going to stop that, there's better be some other place taking their place that are for the good and not for the bad. So
hmm
that's how it occurred for me. But it's interesting because sometimes there's still things that sneak in to my present quote unquote conscious life, um, from my unconscious self. This is still a journey. I haven't got it all worked out. Have you?
Oh, please.
I just did that for the benefit of the viewers, so they don't think that we
I was going to say, of course I don't have it all figured
we
out.
like these gurus that we just know the answer to everything.
That would take all the fun out of it, and people that
Hmm.
act like they figured it all out, I'm very cautious of them. Um,
Okay, good. So what's number three?
well, another step that I addressed is about how to have energy. And that was really the premise in which I wanted to write the book in the first place, because when I was a little girl, I recognized how people that were young in age were already old. and energetically they were old. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about when did you die. Obviously, we're not talking about a physical death. We're
Right.
not talking about that at all. We're talking about near-life experiences. You know, people are fascinated with near-death experiences, and I want people to be more fascinated with near-life experiences, you know, being present in the moment and not missing out when all these treasures and the Pandora is right around you. But I talk a lot about energy. I teach about how in nature, I live in Florida. I've never seen an egret that's just worn out being a bird, you know, complaining about some other bird took my fish and I don't have enough. And, you know, there's always enough. And and so I'm a real advocate for that vibrancy of life. I have more energy in my 50s than I ever did in my 30s. And the longer I live, the more energy I seem to grasp. And there's a way to do that, but it requires not believing all the things that you're told all the time and not always being sold a magical pill, and certain levels of maintenance and taking care of yourself. But I'm a real strong advocate from being alive, really alive, while you're living.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Well, there is no magical pill.
Yeah.
That's an illusion. Uh, and there are multi-billion-dollar industries that sell magical pills.
Brilliant,
So
actually.
so the thing that I wanted to add to that, just from my experience, is that is that for me, energy for me is connected with passion. So when we find that one thing, and there's people that have written books about the one thing, and there's been movies made about the one thing.
Sure.
But when we connect it to that one thing, that's our passion, that's the reason, the purpose why we actually came here, all of a sudden, having energy is not even a question. It's a natural way of being.
Exactly. And that's the issue, isn't it? That's the question.
Yeah.
Is how do we get people out of just being robotic and doing what everybody's told them they can or cannot do into a place of being true to who they really are, so that they can be no longer disconnected and drained, but have energy and be alive and be vibrant. The other thing I talk about is how we have a new language in our culture today. We have way too much profanity, and people say it's just a word. But if you muscle test with kinesiology, someone saying, you know, words of profanity, their vibration goes down, their energy drops, it almost tanks.
Hmm.
Tremendous how much of an impact it has on us.
Their frequency that they're vibrating at
Oh,
changes.
yes, totally. Uh-huh.
And then other people either have to meet that or they have to walk away.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's very interesting. That is true. And I don't spend a lot of time or energy on the internet anymore. I used to. Um, I just, this whole social media thing. It just, for me, it just occurs as a huge waste of time and energy. I don't know why, but that's just how I feel about it. It's just, you know, what the heck. I mean, every time I go on social media and I just briefly check it out, it's all I see is people posting, other people's opinions.
Well, I
I'm
love what you're saying, though,
I'm not
because
interested.
I really think it's a very valid point. And what I would say is, because I've done this myself, I totally concur with what you're saying. And I think that other people ought to be willing to hear you. In other words, test how you feel. You have great energy, you're feeling great, you've had a wonderful day, you know, your kids love you, life is good, you know, you had a good day at the office,
Mhm.
and then you get on some of the social media and you start seeing about outside. They're people you don't even know, but all of a sudden, these waves of, you know, feeling like, oh my gosh, look at what's happening to the world. And all of a sudden you go from being so high and feeling so on top of the world to just really sad and pathetic and not able to speak. And I do think there's a lot
the
of
internet, the internet and social media is sucking energy out of people.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
It's a living, breathing, energy. I don't even know how to say it. It's like, how would I say this? It's almost like the internet is the. It's almost like what's coming in terms of we getting a kind of a view into what is life going to be in 5-10 years from now, when we're going to have robots that will be able to act like we do.
That's exactly right. And thank you for using that word.
We're just getting a taste of it.
Yeah.
This is like the appetizer of what's coming.
And we're the test. I really think we're being used as the test. Because so many people
and the internet is being
robotic.
used. Yeah, and the internet is being used for getting that data right now from us, and we are willingly participating to give the data.
Exactly. All the media, all the news channels, they can go on Google Analytics and go, oh, the numbers go up when we talk about sharks. You know, I mean, there's so many kids that come to visit me in Florida, and we're on land, and they go, oh my gosh, you know, will a shark get me? It's like, thank you, media. You know, the odds of you ever getting bitten by a shark are like 1 in a gazillion. You know, it would be more like you're falling out of the sky and hitting the roof of a car. But yet it just, you know, it gets everybody to click and read and look at it, and it's really sad. I mean, millions and millions and millions of sharks every year because of fear.
We're being led by our noses.
Yes, you're right.
Amazing. And that's
right.
Really why I decided not to participate anymore.
And that's why we need shows like yours to present material that reaches through to catch people's awareness, to have that conscious shift so they can wake up.
And we're being real, you know.
Yes.
You're being real. I'm being real. I'm not saying anything that, you know, I haven't experienced or I'm not experiencing right now. Like I talk about this all the time, is that you know, in my own development, not that this means anything, it doesn't mean anything, but in my own journey and development, I don't have the chatter in my head right now. I was able to get to a place, and this is possible for everyone, where there's no conversation going in my head distracting me from being with you.
Exactly.
And I can really hear you, and I can even hear you what you're not saying.
Right.
Which is magic. Which is absolutely magical.
It is magical.
I mean, I want that for everyone, because that's more important. What you're not saying in between words is more important than what you're saying.
Yeah, I want that for everyone too, which is why we're doing what we're doing, right?
Yeah,
and why we have so much passion about it, because I used to have so many conversations going on in my head. There were like families and tribes, you know, that lived up there. And there was a lot going on, and it fascinates me now, those levels and spaces of silence and quiet. And you can feel, you know, you can feel someone else, you can feel their energy, their being, their heart, more importantly, their heart.
Spirit. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole other world that's possible. But it requires us to be okay with silence, which I'm finding most people are not okay with.
No.
Like, you know that there are these, and I've been to a few of these things, like if you go to a big sporting event and or something, and somebody is making a request for a one minute silence to honor someone, or whatever. People have a real hard time to be quiet for 1 minute, to be silent,
Oh,
because there's all this
absolutely.
stuff that they have to deal with.
Hmm. At our in our spiritual community, I stopped us having the moments of silence because people are so uncomfortable with it, and they start coughing, and all that energy, that it takes more of an effort to be silent than it does, to have music and to have that awareness. I certainly teach the silence, but I don't promote it in large crowds because it's the distraction of being silent. You're
Very,
exactly
very,
right.
very,
Yeah.
very interesting. Which is the same thing. I think that's connected to why people don't want to meditate or don't really want to hear about it, because it almost, meditation has this thing like it's something really mysterious. you know, that's how people have it. It's so mysterious and it seems so difficult that I'm not even going to attempt it.
Hmm.
Do you find that to be true?
Oh, I absolutely do. But I also feel like it's like I say in my book. You can have white lies all you want, and you can tell yourself things like that all you want, but eventually the body will lie you down.
Hmm.
I mean, there comes a time where everyone, on some level of their humanity, finds that place or that need to be quiet, because no matter what, we're not going to avoid ultimately that deep awareness of who we are.
Or the universe will force them to
Exactly.
basically get on
Exactly.
their knees and lay
Exactly.
down.
Yeah.
If you
Uh-huh.
don't want to do it on your own,
Yeah.
here
You'll
it
be done.
comes.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. How about one more? I think we're up to what, 4 or 5, something like 4 maybe.
Yeah,
One more.
absolutely. And I just want to highlight
I,
that I give actual processes to do in the book. This isn't just, bumper sticker truths, but I give exercises, a lot of shamanism, and some examples that you can do that have helped me and have catapulted me to a much freer, and like you said, without all the chatter in my head. One of the things I really address in the book is fear, because, of course, that's why we are such a reactive society. Is we're so programmed as a robot to respond to things that make us afraid. Like go get the shingle shot. I was trying to figure out what was that.
and they say on the commercials, it says, you already have it inside of you. If you had chicken pox, the shingles is already inside of you. Now, as soon as they say this on the commercial, I can't imagine how many millions of people are going like, oh my God, I had chickenpox.
And how many trillions of dollars are made from a fear that you need to go run and get this,
Uh,
you
right.
know, or to go get the flu shot. I
And
actually
then
know,
when you get the shot, you die.
and I know people that have died after
Yeah, yeah. So
getting
do
it,
I.
and and it and so it's like without ever asking yourself, do I really need this? And so I felt very strongly about asking people to really dig deep into why they are afraid, and not just use cliches, feel the fear and do it anyway, little bumper sticker truths that we never dig deep enough, to go, why am I still motivated by fear? And so I talk about the shadow of fear, and I give a Celtic shaman exercise that people can do that will actually help them. Is it going to make it go away entirely? Probably not. We will feel the sensation, but we will not be reactive. We'll be more proactive.
When fear comes up for me, and it doesn't really happen that often, but it still does time to time. And when it comes up, I just remind myself who I really am, because the way I used to be in fear all the time, just like you mentioned, uh,
Absolutely.
and I think I got to this whole new place where I figured out who I am. when I figured out who I really am, all of a sudden, fear disappeared. Like, I'm not afraid of it. I can do anything I want.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can really get in my way because I am the conductor of this movie.
Yes.
And I get to create whatever it is that I want to create. All I have to do is be really clear on what it is that I want, and then it has to be in alignment with who I am. And
exactly.
And all kinds of people could come to me, and they do, and with all kinds of things and ideas and this and that, the other thing, and I'll just go, you know what? I appreciate you asking, but everything that's said so far are things that's not what I'm about. So it's not about you, please don't take it personally. It's about me. I'm very clear on what I want, who I am, and what I'm creating. So that just doesn't fit into my soup. It's not an ingredient I need in my soup.
Right, and you're a perfect example, and it's like you and I are spiritual chiropractors. We're just helping people get in alignment, because once you're in alignment with who you are and understanding the natural way that life works, you understand that struggle is an option.
Right.
It's not necessary to struggle, and I want.
So is depression, and so is many other things. They're all optional.
They're all options, and that's why we do
so
have
is suffering. So is suffering. That's optional too.
Optional, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. So imagine this. The conscious hour is almost over. So I want to give you this opportunity, Temple, to talk a little bit about your book, where people can get it, about your website, and maybe even some programs that you currently have or coming up, and let our viewers know about that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have a regular radio show every week at 2 o'clock Eastern Time on unity.fm. They can find that out by going to my website. It's templehayes.com, like it says on the screen, Hayes. And on my website kind of tells all the work. If they sign up for my daily inspirations, they'll get a free introductory copy to the book, and they'll be able to see, the premise of what the book is about. I also have a trip coming up in September, going to Alaska.
Wow, going to Alaska.
To Alaska, yes. So I do trips quite often, different places, Brazil, Peru, on the sea.
Very nice. So this is like a group trip?
Yes.
To take people on? Uh-huh.
Absolutely, and I do a couple of lectures and workshops, but in Alaska, not too many because there's too much to see.
The bears and what else? Snow and ice.
All the beauty, all the scenery. Yes.
I never been, so I would love to. At one point, we considered taking the Living Consciously. We have several shows on the network that have been around for a while. We're going to take the Living Consciously TV cast and a whole bunch of people on a cruise, but it just never worked out.
Well, it's not too late. You could join us. We're going in September.
Yeah, I know.
Load up your computer and let's go.
It is never too late, that's for sure.
That's right.
All right, so let's see. What's some of the wisdom that you've been talking about, a whole bunch of stuff, but what's some of the wisdom that you would like to leave the viewers with, since we're getting at the end of the show? Like, what is coming to you in terms of, well, let me just ask you this. We mentioned spirit a number of times, and love a number of times on the show. And oh, how appropriate. Saturday is the day of love, right?
Yes, Valentine's.
So, but for me, every day is the day of love. So
yes, of course.
I don't need a special day. But let's talk about love and spirit. What are we talking about when we're talking about? I always talk about connecting our hearts to our heads, so that we're not just, like, I have judged corporate America many times that everybody in corporate America still just thinks with their head. The heart is not engaged. And that's why it's such a really weird place. And that's why I can't really be there anymore. So this opportunity I had to work with corporate America, it's with a company that's open and willing to include the heart and the spirit into their natural unfolding of what they are up to. And I know there are other companies that are open, but it's very few, far in between. So let's talk a little bit about the heart, since it's coming up just in a couple of days. So what are we talking about? We're talking about when you do your lectures. What are you referring to when you're referring to the heart?
The openness of who we are, you know, on our soul's journey. I mean, the more my heart is open, the more I feel, the more I sense, the more I manifest, the more I attract phenomenal things in my life, and more open-hearted people in my life too.
Yeah.
You know, when we
people think of the heart like it's an organ, okay?
Right.
And they're going like, "What are you talking about when you're talking about opening your heart?"
About your life essence, you know, the who you are, you know, and it's and being open and realizing that we are part of nature. You know, that's who we are. We're born out of the earth, and we will return to the earth. And that vibrancy is ours for the taking. And so, yes, I'm talking about the soul path, the journey, the greater picture, not an organ of the heart, even though ultimately that organ of the heart is impacted when we are closed and we are rigid. There's no doubt about it. People are so afraid of cancer, but for every person that dies of cancer, 4 people die of heart issues. So on another level, the physical dimension, there is a connection because of that closed way of being, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we would probably find it fairly common that people that are not, their hearts are not open, they'll end up having heart disease, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot to be said for heartache instead of a heart open.
So let's just spend another couple of minutes on this, because I'm fascinated with this. So since this day is coming up on Saturday, and there's so many cliches that people are using, and the gifts that people are getting, you know, the chocolates. We probably sell more chocolates on this day than probably any other day in the year, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I feel that sugar is our #1 enemy.
Absolutely.
So,
it's our #1 addiction.
So it's like so incongruent for me. Help me with this, Temple. That on the day when we're supposed to love each other and open our hearts, we giving each other chocolates nicely boxed up that are absolutely not good for us.
Mm-hmm. It's because we've allowed rituals to be commercialized, the same manner that if you believe in any kind of level of connecting around Christmas time, another time of being open to love and what is possible and how you can be your own light of the world, most people are so stressed out because they're too busy going shopping trying to give somebody this make-believe present, you know. I mean, you're so right, and that's the part where we lose our way because we're not listening to what matters. I mean, it can be as subtle as people that come into town into Florida. I haven't seen them in 20 years, and they'll say, "Oh, what restaurant do you want to go to?" And I say, "I don't want to go to a restaurant. I haven't seen you in 20 years. I don't want to sit across you down the way on a table and never get to have 5 sentences with you." But families and people gather and do that all the time and say, "Well, it was good to see you."
So can you give some tips maybe for Saturday that people would have an alternative instead of giving each other chocolates and taking each other out to these dinners and eating food that's not good for us. There's no nutrition in it. What are some of the alternatives that people could do?
Well, to do something entirely different, like, intimacy, like intimacy stands for into me, see? It would be about, how could I support you to be a better human being, and how can I help you towards achieving your goals, going into this next year and celebrating who you are in your human suit. How can I support you to achieve some of the desires of your heart? Now that would be meaningful to me.
Oh, wow.
Please
Yeah, absolutely.
don't have someone give me a box of chocolate, because I'm just going to give it to somebody else, because I don't want to get this. I don't want to be hungover, for 3 days. So, yeah, really.
So if you really love me, tell me how you can support me in what I'm up to.
Exactly.
And actually do it, like follow through with it.
Yes, be there.
That's very powerful. Much more powerful than any box of chocolates. I don't care how expensive they are.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. I think that's fantastic. So Temple, you were absolutely outrageously good, but I knew you would be. Just the first time I saw you. It's really easy, and the entire show just flew by, as it always does. I experienced it to be less than 5 minutes, and this is what we call a conscious hour. So thank you so much for being who you are and doing what you do in the world. And I know that you're doing what we're doing is helping people to change their lives one person at a time.
One person at a time. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Temple. Have a wonderful evening and a great weekend. And for everybody else, if you want to see this show on PBS, just keep coming back to Conscious Evolution Media. Keep watching, and every month we'll pick the top show that's going to make it on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and we'll help them go to PBS because you get 100 million eyeballs on PBS. So thank you so much. See you next week. Well, actually, no. I'll see you tomorrow. We have another Mind, Body, and Soul TV tomorrow evening. So see you then. Thank you so much, Temple. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.